Hey everyone, it's Joelle here. Long time no video. I know I have had a little bit of a mental health funk, but I'm finally filming and getting up the May 2019 wrap up. May was a very interesting month for me. I actually had PRK eye surgery, which I'm going to do a whole video about that surgery, just so you guys can know a little bit more about it and ask me any questions. If you guys have questions about LASIK and PRK, please feel free to comment down below, and I'm more than happy to share. But it was a successful month. It was a very audiobook heavy month because I couldn't see for a good chunk of it. So I'm just gonna kind of go through the audiobooks, what I ranked them, and a very brief description of what they were. I am gonna do a more in-depth video about some of these books, which let's just start. So I read the entire series of the 4 Wayward Children books by Seanan McGuire. So yeah, I am gonna do a whole video about those books in more depth, but just to kind of go over briefly, I ranked each one of them 5 stars. I loved them. I love that series. It was cute, it was short, and I feel like they're standalone books that you don't really have to read the other ones. Maybe one of them you might want to read the other ones, but overall I feel like you could pick one up and be okay with not reading another one. So I started with the first book, which was Every Hearted Doorway. This follows a girl named Nancy, and Nancy has suddenly reappeared from a world that she was living in for a while that was a darker world, and she's back on Earth in normal realm, and she ends up going to Eleanor's School for Wayward Children. It's kind of like a Miss Peregrine meets like a Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe kind of series. So that's kind of the overall vibe of the series in general. You got all these kids that go to these different worlds that they find through doorways, and then they come back and they're all kind of misfits, so they end up in this home. This book was really interesting because, you know, she's just starting to meet all the other kids and kind of understand, and pretty much all of them just want to get back to the world they were in, because they find these doors when they just don't fit in the world that we live in. So Nancy just wants to get back. She just wants to get back so bad. But kids just start turning up dead, and they're trying to solve the murders of who's doing it and why. So that one was really good. The second book was Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and if I could give this a 10 star, I would. I freaking loved this one. Out of all of the Wayward Children books, this one was by far my favorite. This follows 2 identical twins, Jacqueline and Jillian, and Jillian's kind of like the tomboy, and Jacqueline is more of the girly girl because their parents forced them to be that way, but their parents didn't really want them. So that's a long story, and I'll go into more of that in my spoiler video, but they end up going to this world, which is another really dark world that's run by vampires, and they end up having a choice of splitting up or staying together, and they end up splitting up, and they kind of switch roles as far as the feminine and masculine aspect of it. So Jacqueline ends up becoming Jack, and then Jillian ends up becoming Jill, and it's really interesting. I loved it so much, so I will go more into that into a spoiler video. In an Absent Dream was the next one that I read, and I realized that I read them out of order per se, but In the Absent Dream is almost like a prequel to Every Hearted Doorway, because the timeline in our world takes place like before this other world. So basically it follows the story of Lundy, and Lundy ends up in a world, obviously, and hers was a little bit different. She has to learn what like true value of things are, and learn about trading and bartering, and like how good your word is. And there's a lot of birds in the world, which I don't want to get into too much detail, but Lundy is actually a character that is in the first book. So it's a prequel to her story. And she's one that can go back and forth pretty frequently. So really, really interesting story. I liked that one. Still 5-star, but it wasn't my favorite. And then the last one that I read was Beneath the Sugar Sky, and this one was fun because this one kind of takes place immediately after Every Heart a Doorway. So Down Among the Sticks and Bones and In an Absent Dream are before Every Heart a Doorway. So if I could read it all over again, I would switch them. But again, I will do that in my other video. Beneath the Sugar Sky follows a new kid that has come to the school, and they have to kind of help her out, and they go to her world, which is like sweet and candy and food and all of that stuff. So it's really exciting. It's like Candyland. So, and they kind of joke about that. There's some references, but that one was fun. I really liked that one. And so those 4 books I gave 5 stars. Then, so the whole time I was listening to these, I could not see. So I literally had nothing else to do but listen to audiobooks. And it was great. Then I was in a lot of pain, so I was on some medicine and decided I would listen to a thriller. And the next one I listened to was The Missing Years by Lexi Elliott, which had just come out, and I was really excited that there was an audiobook of it. I gave this one 4 stars. This follows Ilsa is how you pronounce her name, and at least the narrator did, and her half-sister, and it's following their mother's death, because they share a mother, and they inherit this house that Ilsa actually grew up in, and when they go back to this town in Scotland, nobody really likes them, nobody really wants them there, because their family has kind of a bad reputation, but there's a little bit of a weirdness happening with some of the neighbors. Like this one neighbor just frequently goes into their house at random and just spends time in it because she feels comfortable there. And then her brother, there's kind of like this like love tension kind of happening. So they're trying to figure out, there's this ongoing thing at the beginning of each chapter, which is the what if, because her father actually mysteriously disappeared. So as growing up and stuff, she would always come up with these random scenarios of like, this is where my dad is. And they were so like off the wall abstract, like he's a pirate now and he's off in this land with this person. So really interesting. It's like real though. And then there's like kind of a magical element, like a supernatural kind of like, what do you call it? Like a medium type aspect to it too. Overall, I liked it. I do like Lexi Elliott's writing. I gave it a 4 because there were parts that just kind of dragged on and I hated the ending. That was the main reason why. The next one I listened to was Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. And this one I got from Libby, my library app. Oh, the other ones actually came from Scribd, which I had got because I needed more audiobooks and my library app just didn't have ones that I wanted immediately. The next ones all came from my library app, Libby. Genuine Fraud I didn't like, but I didn't hate, which is why I gave it a 3. This follows Jules, and she kind of, it's like a backwards timeline. Like it's starting at like about the climax and then just going back in time, leading up to this, and then it picks up again. It was confusing because again, I was on some pretty strong meds during that time, but yeah, I was confused and I liked parts of it, but I just didn't really like her character. I thought she was brilliant though, but I just, I didn't really like it. So basically she kind of steals the identity of her friend, and then it goes back in time, like about the friend's life. And she's being hunted by the police. So like, you're just kind of figuring out what happened. And then it leads back up to when the police are catching on to her in Mexico. So pretty neat. I don't recommend it. I wouldn't really waste time on it. I don't think it's like the best book ever, but it was entertaining at the time. And then the last one that I actually completed in May was The Fates Divide, which is the sequel to Carve the Mark. I bought that book so long ago, and I've been wanting to read it, and honestly, would I give it a 3? Excuse me. I gave it a 3, and the reason why is because I couldn't remember what the hell happened in the first book. And I tend to do that where I wait so long in between books that I can't seem to remember what happened. And then you're reading it and you're just kind of like, I have no idea what's going on. But I realized that I just didn't really like it. But I felt like I had to finish it and had to conclude it. And I hope it's over. I hope it's a duology and not more books, because I don't know if I necessarily want to continue it. But I think I would have liked it more if I had read them back to back. But I also had started a book at the end of May, and let me tell you, this one I really didn't like, and it was The Lost Man by Jane Harper. And I had listened to a Jane Harper book before and really liked it. It's an Australian book. Now, I prefer UK thrillers, so I was like, oh, I'll go into this Australian thriller. I really didn't like this book. It was more of a contemporary, and it was boring, and it was about men and basically some brothers that all own land in the Australian outback, and one of them ends up dead. And I thought it was going to be like a murder mystery, but it really wasn't. It was about the guys' lives and how boring they were. Ugh, it was so painful. But more about that in my June wrap-up, which hopefully I'll actually film on time. But that's pretty much it. I'm still haven't finished Vengeful. Still got that one. And yeah, I that one's just sitting over there in the pile on the floor. But it is what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books or listened to any of them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And let me know if you have any good thriller recommendations, specifically by UK authors. But I will take a good American or another country. I'm down for it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. All my social media links are in the description box below. If you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. Let me know how you found me. I would love to stay in touch. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.